Thank you, Larissa, for having me here today. I sure appreciate being able to speak about natural health. And today we are going to talk about Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's and dementia has become quite an issue with a lot of people. And in the last year, I have learned a lot of natural ways that you can help with Alzheimer's. And I have watched some seminars from medical doctors where they are saying they are curing, and again, that's their words, not mine. They are curing Alzheimer's. And I'm going to share some of the information with you from them. And I will also share with the Senior Center the list of these medical doctors and their research. So you will have that. Okay, what is Alzheimer's? Dr. Alois Alzheimer in 1906 was the first one to actually label it as Alzheimer. So that word has been around for a long, long time. It is a disease of progressive mental deterioration. Memory and abstract thought processes are impaired. An inability to communicate, loss of bladder and bowel control, memory loss, personality changes, and mood swings. And the sad part is that death usually occurs within 5 to 10 years. Early signs are short-term memory loss, mood swings, language trouble, repetition, loss of focus, apathy, loss of direction, and loss of smell. Now, a lot of us have that short-term memory loss, like walk into a room, what am I doing here? That's not dementia. What dementia is you pick up your toothbrush and you can't remember what it's for. Or you will put your keys in the refrigerator, or you will just forget what things are for, or you get lost and just can't even locate where you are. Those are more the signs of what dementia would be. And to give you some statistics on Alzheimer's, this is from the Alzheimer's organization website. Right now, more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. By 2050, this number is projected to rise to 13 million. In US, Alzheimer's and dementia deaths increased by 16% during the pandemic. And one of the reasons they feel is because one trigger for Alzheimer's is loneliness. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. 1 in 3 seniors dies with Alzheimer's or another dementia. It kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. And I'm going to repeat that. It kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. In 2021, Alzheimer's and other dementias will cost the nation $355 billion. By 2050, these costs could rise to as high as $1.1 trillion. So this is a disease we really should try to get a hold of and do whatever we can to bring about a help so that it doesn't happen to rise that high. This is the one that really bothers me, this statistic. Between the year 2000 and the year 2019, deaths from heart disease, which is the #1 cause of deaths in America, decreased by 7.3%, while deaths from Alzheimer's increased 145%. I'm going to read it again because you really need to think about this disease. Between the year 2000 and 2019, deaths from heart disease decreased by 7.3%, while deaths from Alzheimer's increased by 145%. And again, this is from the Alzheimer's organization where I got these statistics. There are some triggers that they found. And this is, most of this is from the Journal of American Medical Association. And this is the one that really bothers me too, is prescription medication, especially antidepressants and antihistamines. So how many people have allergies today? And how many people take Benadryl? They're finding that that's a trigger, is taking those medications. A weird one, not wanting to grow old. Our brains have so much control over our physical. So fighting aging in a mental negative capacity can contribute to dementias. Lead exposure. We're going to talk a little bit later about oxidative stress, but having lead exposure increases free radicals in the brain, and that starts a whole domino effect of how our brain functions. Exposure to insecticides. DDT has been outlawed since the 70s, but it's still in our food sources. So one of those reasons why we should eat organic as much as possible. The use of glyphosate, which is in Roundup, has been proven to contribute to Alzheimer's. So anytime you're out there spraying to kill those weeds with Roundup, you need to be thinking about that. There's research that shows that if we all stopped using, everyone across the world stopped using Roundup, it would take over 50 years to clear it out of the air, the water, and the earth. It's going to be here for a long, long time. So really rethink your use of Roundup. Straight vinegar kills about anything you put it on. So reconsider the use of that and possibly just go to vinegar. It's all we use at our house. And the other thing, a possible trigger is loneliness. And it's not necessarily like the isolation that was endured during the pandemic. It's a feeling of loneliness, not having anyone that you feel connected to. So be thinking about that. Just those feelings, those emotions can lead to issues with Alzheimer's. Okay. So what did some of the research show? One of the things I hadn't heard about was a connection with Alzheimer's was type 3 diabetes. There is research that talks about insulin and how it reacts in the brain. It is necessary for the brain to communicate. The neurons in the brain become unable to respond to insulin, which is essential for basic tasks, including memory and learning. Some researchers believe insulin deficiency is central to the cognitive decline in Alzheimer's disease. They are doing some studies at Mayo Clinic right now, and we should get the results they feel within the next year. But anyone who has diabetes, which diabetes has become actually an epidemic in this country, they are much more prone to Alzheimer's than someone who is not diabetic. I have to tell you a little bit about a client of mine. Diabetes does not have to be something you have to take medication for the rest of your life. This client was diagnosed with diabetes a year ago, March. His sugar numbers were 526, which 600 they feel is comatose. So he was a pretty sick fella. And they wanted to put him on metformin, which we know causes irreparable muscle damage. So we had about 2 weeks to see if we could do something about that high of a number. Well, we did exercise and dietary change, huge, and we also did a few supplements. Within 10 days, his sugar number was 106 in 10 days. So you can do so much with food, diet, which is your fuel. That's your fuel, period. That's what runs you, just like the car, it runs on gas. You would not put ketchup in your car to run it. So why would you put something your body can't use? So there is some really good things that you can do with the diabetes. And again, having diabetes does increase your chances of Alzheimer's. Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about is prescription meds. A lot of my colleagues in natural health are completely against prescription meds. I am not. They have their place. There are times when you do need an antibiotic. There are times when you might need another medicine. What I am against is saying you're going to be on this the rest of your life. And then they do nothing to counteract the deficiencies that all these medications cause. So just like an acid blocker, how many people get heartburn and they'll give them an acid blocker? Well, calcium is a mineral every single cell in our body needs. So when you take in something of calcium, you have to have acid to break it down. So they give you an acid blocker, so that makes it so your body can't break down calcium. Every cell in your body needs calcium. So it brings about a calcium deficiency. And our heart beats with calcium, and upbeat with calcium contracts and relaxes with magnesium. So we have that nice beat, calcium, magnesium, calcium, magnesium. So if you don't have enough calcium, you're going to have issues with that heartbeat. And antidepressants. How many people are on antidepressants now? Because we're depressed. We're going to talk about that later too with your food. That depletes your body of CoQ10. Every cell in your body needs CoQ10. There are studies out there that show CoQ10 alone has cured cancer. So if we don't have any in our diet, or we don't have any in our body, cancer is on the upswing now too. I have to talk just a minute about the chemical cocktails, and I'll give you a personal. My mom, she actually died of renal disease. But shortly before she died, she started having a lot of issues with dementia. And we're going to talk a minute about urinary tract infections, because that also contributes to Alzheimer's. But she got so bad that we had to put her in a nursing home. And while in this nursing home, they took her off one of her medications, which happened to be Lasix. But she was on an antidepressant and then a couple others along with the Lasix. Well, the doctor took her off it. And within about a day and a half, 3 days, all my mother's dementia went away. And she was back being my mom. So these chemical cocktails aren't always what they are meant to be. So even though by themselves, the one medication might be good, but when you put 3, 4, and 5 together, and sometimes I've seen people have one full page of medication they're taking. Who knows what kind of prescription med you are taking now, because it becomes a cocktail. So really look at that. And it causes every single medication out there causes some kind of deficiency. And one of the main ones is your Bs and magnesium, which we're going to talk about in just a couple minutes. One of the other items that one of the doctors researched was the standard American diet. If I had about 3 days to talk to you about the standard American diet, it is not good. Most people who know me know I'm a Christian, but I don't push religion ever. But it doesn't matter what your religion, we were not made in a factory, none of us. So I suggest you don't eat food that was made in a factory, that you keep your food as close to how God put it on this earth, because the cells match. Everything's cellular, everything's down to the molecular size. So if we eat chemicals, as an example, a lot of people like Doritos, little chip, and Doritos have red dye in them. Red dye actually contributes to ADD and ADHD in kids. So those are things that just our bodies don't know how to react to them. So it comes out in a different way. So Stay away from processed foods and what I call dead foods. Like if you set an apple out and left it for several weeks, it will actually start eating itself because it's full of enzymes. You sat a Twinkie there, you could still eat it in probably 700 to 800 years. Those are the kinds of dead foods that you don't want to use. Okay, talked about urinary tract infections. The kidneys will filter out all the impurities out of your body. But when they're not working properly, all those impurities back up into your body somewhere, and they do have an affinity to go to the brain. So you really need to watch how well your kidneys are functioning, and that's water. Number one cause of kidney dialysis is dehydration. Be drinking and sipping your water all day long. Stop drinking colas, stop drinking pop. We won't get into that today because that's another half a day. So really watch those urinary tract infections. Then we're going to talk a minute about sleep. Sleep is so important, and I know that as we age, we don't sleep as we should. We might only get an hour here, an hour there, but the body is on a biological clock for that 24-hour period. And if we don't sleep during the nighttime, when the major organs are cleansed, the body cannot clear out what we call the beta amyloids, and it actually will lead to raising the toxic levels of this, and that's a huge risk for Alzheimer's. We all know that if we have lack of sleep, get brain fog, we can't think clearly, but if you have that night after night after night after night, it's going to lead to issues with Alzheimer's. Okay. One of the things I want to talk about is our digestion as we age. A lot of us, as we get older, we lose what's called our enzyme reserve. Enzymes are what helps to break down our food. And if we don't digest our food to get it into a small enough particle to feed our cells, that starts a deficiency domino effect. And the more we have deficiencies, the more chances of disease we have. So again, even with obesity, a lot of times that's an issue with deficiencies. If we don't digest things properly, our body continues to send a message to our brains, eat, 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 because I need some nutrition. You're eating, but nothing's being absorbed. So the brain sends another message. I need nutrition. So then you eat, eat, eat. But if nothing is digested and broken down so that the body can use it, you're going to have obesity. And again, obesity leads to, number one, diabetes, and then that can also give you a higher risk for Alzheimer's. And when speaking of nutritional deficiencies, what they found when they've talked to a lot of and tested a lot of Alzheimer's patients, they had a lot of nutritional deficiencies, especially B12 and zinc. That's why the loss of smell, because anytime you have zinc deficiency, you'll have an issue with loss of taste and loss of smell. And you can check yourself for zinc deficiencies by looking at your nails. You'll have little white spots on them. That'll be a zinc deficiency. They'll find they have huge B complex deficiencies, and they won't be able to absorb their nutrition very well. So you can check if you're absorbing by looking at your fingernails. If you've got vertical lines in your fingernails. That's going to show that you're not absorbing your food very well. And you can also look at your tongue. If you see the indentations of your teeth in your tongue, that's another sign that you're not absorbing your food well. Also, they found vitamin A deficiency. You can check yourself for vitamin A deficiency by feeling the back sides of your upper arm. And if you find little bumps there, like little dry spots, that's a vitamin A deficiency. Also, if you have night blindness, if you're not seeing well at night when you're driving and whatever, that's another vitamin A deficiency sign. And also vitamin E is another one that they found that they were deficiency in. Vitamin A and E and zinc are especially good at free radical scavengers. They'll go after the free radicals, which are oxidative stress. Those are the bad things in our body that if we eat a lot of antioxidants, they just naturally take care of that. People don't get enough antioxidants today. Okay, so that's there. I do want to talk about what we can do for a few minutes. Because I have been called the queen of doom and gloom before. So I always like to leave you with what can we do to help ourselves? Because there is a lot you can do on your own. If you're going to work with any of your medication, I suggest you always work with your doctors. He or she will know exactly what to do. And if they won't help you with looking at the medication and maybe stopping some of the medication, find a different doctor. There are more doctors out there today that are doing that. So just keep looking for a good one that really is concerned about your health. Okay, what can we do? Of course, people who know me, diet is number one. I have always been a proponent of diet first and supplement second. Just the word tells you it's supplements. So if you don't eat that good diet, you are not, I mean, I could tell you what herbs to take, but you'd have to take huge amounts the rest of your life. You really need to do food first. So looking at your plate, you need 80% vegetable fruit on that plate, more vegetables than fruit, and 20% other. And other means meats, grains, starches, other. But you need that 80% vegetables. There's so much nutrition and fiber and just antioxidants that you've got to have to run your body properly. And that's easy to do. I mean, especially where we live, we have access to so many vegetables and so many fruits that are locally grown. And this is the one that I have the hardest part with because I'm a sugarholic. No or low sugar. I fight that every day. So I just eat more fruit. Blueberries is my thing because they're so sweet. You can do some dried fruit. You know, that helps to curb that sweet taste. There's several herbs that if you have a real hard time with it, I can't think of it right now. I have to come back. It'll come to me later. But there is an herb you can take if you have a huge sugar craving. It helps with that. Or eat just a little bit of dark chocolate. Only dark chocolate. No white chocolate. There's no cocoa in white chocolate. And no milk chocolate because there's too much sugar in those. But if you do the dark chocolate, 60% or more of cocoa content, that's going to be very helpful. And totally increase your fiber. And the best is the fiber from vegetables. Black beans, all of your beans are high in fiber. So try to bring more of that into your diet. And good fats. Years ago, there was the fat-free fad. Oh my goodness, talk about starting heart disease. It's the worst thing for you is to go fat-free. Coconut oil, which is one of the fats that I think Dr. Mary Newport used with her husband. Her husband got dementia so bad that he had to quit his job, had to stay home. She needed help for him because he could no longer care for himself. And she changed his diet to more like I was just talking about, and started him on coconut oil each day, I think 3 tablespoons. Within several days, a lot of his memory and his behavior was starting to change, and a lot of him came back. So coconut oil is a really, really good fat to put into your diet. Good nuts, not so much the processed ones, but the ones that are raw. I always recommend walnuts. There's a whole process of herbology that is called doctrine of signatures, which means an herb that looks like the organ you want to help. Like there's an herb called lungwort that you can use because it looks like little lungs, so you know you use it for the lungs. Well, if you look at a walnut, a whole walnut, it looks like a brain. So you know it's very, very good for your brain. So add those walnuts to your diet every single day. Not only does it help with the good fat for your brain, it also does for your joints and your heart. Olive oil, avocados, and please do not use any hydrogenated anything like Crisco, like margarines. Use lard. Lard is so much better for us because it's not hydrogenated. And use butter. Butter's a good fat. So that's kind of what we can do for our diet. And supplements, if you are taking a lot of prescription medication, you really need to supplement. I'm going to read through, because remember, a lot of your medication depletes your body of the B complex. This is deficiency signs of B vitamins: memory loss, moodiness, neurological damage, arthritis, learning, hearing, fatigue, dementia, especially niacin, insomnia, forgetfulness, irritability. That's just deficiency in your B vitamins. What do they do in your body? Optimize cognitive activity and brain function. Oh my goodness. And there's prescription drugs that totally deplete your body of your B vitamins. Protects against aging, improves circulation, memory enhancer, production of neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are how your brain communicates. Aids in digestion. Remember, we talk about digestion. If your digestion isn't working properly, you can't get your nutrition in, even if you're eating it. Prevents nerve damage, repairs the myelin sheath. B12, especially linked to production of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter that assists memory and learning. That's just one vitamin causes all of that. So really, you should always supplement with B complex. Another one that it depletes is magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral, again, that helps with that beat of the heart. Up with calcium and down with relaxation on the downbeat with magnesium. A lot of times when people get palpitations, they will give them a calcium blocker because, again, calcium contracts, upbeat, magnesium relaxes. So they'll block the calcium, which is needed for every cell in the body, instead of giving them magnesium, which would bring about that relaxation. I've had people with palpitations be better in 24 hours just giving them magnesium. People who are constipated, if you give them magnesium, because again, reacts the same way in the bowel, contracts with calcium, relaxes with magnesium. So you have that good bowel movement. And we won't talk about bowels today. But that's extremely important to get that magnesium in. So this is some of the deficiency signs of magnesium deficiency: confusion, insomnia, irritability, makes all diseases worse, possible connection to diabetes, anxiety, tremors, unclear conversation, abnormal moods, short circuit in communication of brain neurons, poor memory, great forgetfulness. That's just the deficiencies in magnesium. And what does it do in the body? Soothes and cools brain and nervous system, removes toxins from the body, fosters cell growth, calms nerves, necessary for lung and brain function, promotes sleep, alkalizes the body, keeps the body regular, meaning getting to the bathroom every day, and makes the body more flexible and youthful. So people who are getting, say, arthritis, that type of thing, or if they're getting like the things in the knobs and stuff in their fingers, that's usually a calcium buildup. And if you give them magnesium, eventually that'll clear that out of their hands. The other one that I have found was CoQ10. And CoQ10, there's even research that shows that, again, it will clear cancer out of a body. There was a doctor who gave CoQ10 to a heart patient of his, and the patient also had the beginnings of stomach cancer. And eventually the stomach cancer was gone as he was helping him with his heart disease. So CoQ10 is a vital anti-aging enzyme, fights cardiovascular disease, increases tissue oxygenation, aids in circulation, aids in Alzheimer's disease. So those are just some issues with a few of the supplements, a few of the vitamins and minerals that we can get deficient in. I want to add a little bit to the diet part. I would like people to start taking, if they're on a lot of medication, they really need to take a probiotic, which is an acidophilus, making sure that there's enough of the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium in the container. And if you have someone who has major issues with dementia, there is a neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, that we talked about, and also another big word, phosphatidylserine. These help with the messages that our body, our brain has. One other thing that people don't like to hear me say, every single time I do research on a disease, exercise comes up. And if we don't all get up off our behinds and start moving, it just brings about disease. People who have a sit-down job all day long, like a 7 or 8 hours where you're sitting, you need to get up every hour and move around for at least 5 minutes. If you can do that, if you can exercise, you can decrease your risk of Alzheimer's by 50%. This is from the Alzheimer's Association from 2015. 50%. Often as we age, we just kind of sit around and whatever, watch TV. No, stop doing that. Get outside and garden. In fact, I just read a study. It was called The Dirt on Depression. They have found that in the earth, there are these bacterium, I don't remember what it's called, it's a big long word, that actually aid in fighting depression. That's why gardeners are so fun, and they smile and they have a good time because they're in the dirt all the time. If I showed you my hands, you'd go, ew, but it's because I'm in the dirt. I'm my happiest when I am digging in my flowers. And they have actually now found that this bacterium aids in depression. There is a farm out in Denver, I think it was, where they're taking soldiers with PTSD, and they're having them farm, and they are literally curing them of PTSD with digging in the dirt. How cool is that? So get outside and dig in the dirt today. It's a beautiful day. So that's all I have for today. And I so enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Mary, we have a couple of questions in
Okay.
our chat. So I'm going to ask those and then just have you respond. So we had a question regarding other types of supplements to combat diabetes.
Cinnamon is one of the best things you can do. Something you can even add to your diet each day. Bitter melon is another one that works really well. One of the best things is just to get up and walk around, because one of the issues with diabetes is, and this is just how the body works, we make glucose, and that's our energy. And when we sit, glucose builds up and builds up and builds up, and you need to clear that out. But cinnamon is still probably one of the best ones.
And then what would you recommend for a good detox?
A lot of that depends on your blood type. If you're blood type A, chlorophyll is a really good detox. There are several good detoxes out there. One that is simple, it's a solar ray product, and it's called multi-system cleanse. And it's something you take at night before you go to bed, because a lot of detoxes can make you feel ill. You'll feel almost like you have the flu because your body wants to quickly get rid of any toxicity that's there. So I like the solar ray product called multi-system cleanse. Again, you take it at night, you don't have that sickness.
And last question, primarily just due to time here. Could you kind of run through some of the other sources of fiber? You mentioned beans, and I know I'm one of these people. I'm not a huge fan. I'll eat them, but it's not my favorite thing. What are some other ways that we can introduce more fiber into our diet?
Anytime you eat a salad, you're introducing more fiber. All the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, all of those brassicas like that, they are extremely high in fiber and in nutrients that are really helpful to you. One of the things I forgot to mention as far as to help the brain is turmeric. Turmeric is actually a brain enhancer. So the turmeric is a good spice to add to everything. Getting back to fiber, like green beans. Green beans are a perfect food almost, because it's in a perfectly, has all the essential amino acids in it. But just some of those things, those are going to add fiber. Apples, berries, pears are really high in fiber. So just about any fruit or vegetable, you're going to get a lot of fiber.
Excellent. Thank you, Mary. Thanks
You're
for your
welcome.
time and for sharing your professional expertise with us today. We appreciate it. For those of you on the call, live with us today, as well as viewing our recording, we're going to put some of Mary's resources for the things she quoted. She really got in depth with some things, and we are going to put that on the website. And that website, again, is seniorenrichmentday.com. One final note, just a big thank you for our little mini webinar series. Thank you again to Spectrum Health Rapids for being our advertising sponsor. Thank you again to Lerner, Zerny, and Fath Financial Group for the use of their beautiful office space. And thank you again to the Mecosta County Commission on Aging for keeping Senior Enrichment Day part of our community. Thanks so much for joining us. And please check out the website, seniorenrichmentday.com.